Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I'm joined by a very special guest, first-year player on the Harvard women's hockey team, Taze Thompson, joins the show. Welcome to the podcast, Taze, and thank you so much for coming on. How's everything going?
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me. Everything's going good. I'm in Michigan right now for a break, visiting some family, so things are all going good over here.
That's good to hear, and it's kind of hard to believe that you've finished the first half in your first semester of your, first year in college. So what did you take away from the games you've played so far, and how would you evaluate your team's performance throughout the first half of the season?
Yeah, it's crazy to believe that we're already halfway done. I feel that that kind of went by in the blink of an eye, but I mean, so far, I think the biggest takeaway is just for me, like how competitive and fast every single game is, making the jump to college hockey. We're playing against some of the best girls in the country, and every game is such a battle and every game is so important. But I think the team, we were so eager to get back at it, especially because Ivy Leagues and a couple other teams didn't play during the pandemic year. So I just think we had so much buzz, so much jump, so much like built up eagerness to get back on the ice. So far, so good.
Well, that's good to hear. And how are you approaching the second half of the season? Like, what are your team's goals and expectations, and what do you hope to achieve yourself looking at the second half of the schedule?
Yeah, no, I think the second half we want to come in the same way that we came in the first half, ready to go for everything, especially because we see some new teams that we didn't see in the first half, like Quinnipiac and Princeton, two very good programs. So I think we're eager to play the rest of what ECAC has. And, UMD, we haven't played them before in the past, I don't believe. So we have some really good tests, some good matchups. And I think we're super excited to play these good teams. We really want to continue to elevate our game. Other teams are getting better and, we're getting better at the same time. But I think we use that drive that everyone else is getting better to keep our performance up and just keep on this incline that we're kind of on right now.
Yeah, just talk about what it's like playing in the ECAC and just the competition you face every night. I know you haven't played every team yet in the conference, but what have you noticed from playing the different teams that you've played so far?
Yeah, I think ECAC has so much skill and, a lot of teams are very physical. So every single game you have to come prepared the exact same way because you're going to get a good test every single game. You can never take a game off. It's also really fun. You play against girls that you grew up with and, maybe played AAA with or did some national camps with. So definitely really exciting playing in the ECAC. I'm excited, again, to see what the second half has to offer, but so far it's been great.
Now, who are some of the players you got to play against this time versus being on their team with so far?
Yeah, for sure. So I played against my friend Calty. She plays at Colgate. I don't know if you've talked to her. She's a great player. A lot of New Hampton girls along the way are going to come up soon that I'm going to be able to play against. Some friends at Union that I grew up in Sherwood Park with, Mickey Bear. So, lifelong friends just kind of splattered all over the place. It's been really fun.
Yeah, and obviously, you're playing against some great competition, but the one thing I like or find interesting about the ECAC is you play a different team every weekend. It's not like in other conferences where you play the same team on Friday and Saturday. So what's
Yeah.
that like, kind of adjusting to different teams on a night-to-night basis?
Yeah, honestly, I think in a way it's a little bit more advantageous. I always find it's kind of hard to play the same team twice. Maybe a little bit more of a grittier battle. So I like that we get a fresh team every single game. I think, it changes up because each team is different. Like each team brings a lot of different players with a lot of different skill sets. So you kind of have to approach each game the same, but it always brings something different. It's always really fun. So I personally like it, having a new test every game.
Now, what's been the biggest improvement you've made to your game in college hockey so far? Has it been the mental side of the game, or has it been kind of just the physical side since you're going against players that are a lot older than you are, and it's also a much quicker game as well?
Yeah, I would say maybe a little bit of both. Definitely the physicality of the game. Girls are quick and fast, so you don't really have a lot of time and space with the puck as opposed to maybe when you were in high school. So you kind of have to be one play ahead, always know what you want to do with the puck before you get it kind of thing. And then for the mental side too, maybe just taking care of yourself and learning to really emphasize like rolling out, eating good, getting a lot of hydration because there's so much wear and tear on your body. Like the collegiate schedule, I feel like is pretty hectic, pretty tedious. So I would say just really, really being conscientious of like taking care of yourself, maybe a little bit more so than we had to in AAA or high school.
Yeah, and I think it's also another thing, just talking to the players, just controlling the controllables. I think something that I've had to learn the past 2 years since the pandemic began was
Yeah.
just kind of having to control what you can control, just because there's so many variables that you can't control. How do you try to learn that playing college hockey, since there's a lot of things that you can't really control?
Yeah, I think just being present and, I think control the controllables is like such a good saying, and it can be applied anywhere. Because if you're worried about something that's really out of your control, I think that's just wasted energy, and you could be putting that energy towards something that you can control. So definitely just being present and worrying about what's in your hands, I think is always just a great way to play and really just to live.
Yeah. And then another thing about Harvard's schedule, which I find interesting, is your team starts a little bit later than the other teams in the conference. How do you guys try to build that momentum even though you have a later start in your schedule?
Yeah, I think we're on the ice every single day and we're in the gym, so I think it's good because it's a really good build up. So I think you do have a lot of jam, like everyone's just almost waiting for that first puck drop. So I think just we're always together as a group, whether it's like in class, in the dining hall, in the gym. So just focusing on like togetherness, and then that togetherness leads to something bigger when the puck does finally drop. So I think the built up eagerness is awesome, and it really fueled us right from the start.
Now, we talked about the biggest adjustment you had to make to college hockey, but what's been the biggest improvement you've noticed in your game since playing college hockey?
Biggest improvement, I would probably say um, reading and reacting, like my ability to kind of make quicker decisions. Like I kind of said before, you don't have as much time. And then maybe just being a little bit more tactical, like as a centerman, like D zone. Like I think there's such a huge emphasis on D zone. And like you can't really take care of the O zone unless you take care of your D zone. So learning to communicate with your D, knowing who has who. I've seen a huge improvement just from the start of the year to now. So maybe the X's and O's a little bit more.
Hmm. And how do you try to work on that quick reaction part of your game? Is it like a drills you can do during practice that helps improve the area of your game, or is it kind of just building that up playing games?
I think it's a little bit of both for sure. In practice, we do a lot of like competitive games, a lot of passing drills that require you to make passes, make plays before. Because in practice, everything's really competitive. So we want to really push each other. So that translates over to games. And then it kind of, you do adjust to it a little bit more with each game that you play, because there's always someone right on you. And so, after a couple games on your belt that someone's going to be on you pretty quick. So you kind of have to adapt to that and kind of get your feet going first, or like know what you want to do with the puck before you get it. So definitely both.
Now, your team is also currently ranked. So my question is, how has yourself and the rest of your teammates maintained your winning consistency? And how does your team handle the pressure of being a ranked team?
Yeah, I think just emphasizing like never getting complacent. We really talk about that a lot, and it's awesome to be ranked, but we want to elevate that. Like we want to go up in the rankings. We don't want to stay there. We don't want to drop down. So I think always striving for a little bit more. It's awesome that we're ranked. We love it. We get fired up. We use it to keep motivating us. But I think coaches and our teammates, captains, all emphasize you just never want to be complacent. You never want to be happy with where you are in the moment. Like you want to keep getting better.
Now, obviously, the rankings have some importance because it helps determine what happens with the national tournament. And
Yeah.
the reason why I kind of wanted to mention that is because obviously the tournament is being expanded from 8 to 11 teams. And I think they announced the format of how that's going to work, because I know it's going to happen for this season. So my question is, how excited are you for an expanded tournament, and what are some of the benefits you think you're going to see from that new format?
Oh, it's awesome. I think, we really voiced that we wanted that expansion to be made, and it's incredible that we got it. It's just a better opportunity to see more skilled teams really battle at the end. There's so much talent in D1 hockey and across NCAA. So I think it's really going to elevate the pace of play, and for more teams to be able to get that opportunity to try and win a national championship. I think it's going to be awesome. We were so excited when we got the news. It was over the moon joy in the locker room and in the video room when we found out. So I think it's going to be really exciting in the future.
Now, I also think it's going to help kind of grow the game of women's hockey, just because one, more teams are going to get the opportunity to play in the tournament, which will help make new fans, but also give players opportunities to be in those big situations in the national tournament. I don't know if you agree with me on that. I just kind of feel like that's a big reason
Definitely.
why.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a huge push to grow the women's game, especially when we were campaigning it. We took use to social media a lot to try and close the gap, was like the hashtag. Saw it all over Instagram and Twitter. And, my team really tried to put the word out there. And I know a lot of other teams did as well. So to see kind of that everyone was advocating for the growth of women's game, and for us to kind of get a similar opportunity than the men's get, it was awesome. We were super fired up.
Now, something else I think about the second half of the season, and unfortunately, this is a question I didn't want to talk about. I thought we were kind of past it, but unfortunately, it's kind of brought back up because I know Harvard announced that you guys are going to be going remote for the first few weeks in January. So my question is, how are you going to try to handle the COVID thing for the second half, and how much of an impact do you think it's going to have on your season?
Yeah, so I think we're really good at kind of handling obstacles when they've been thrown at us. Our season was canceled last year, and I think everyone did a really good job with staying mentally prepared and keeping our bodies ready. I think living in a pandemic, you kind of have to be ready for everything, and everyone's become really flexible at handling situations when they come at them. So, I mean, again, like it's almost like going back to controlling the controllables. We don't really know what's going to happen, but I think it's kind of like hoping for the best, but expecting the worst. Like you just always have to be ready, expect the worst. And if it's not that bad, then we just keep going on and keep playing. So.
Yeah, because I feel like if my memory serves me correct, Harvard was like the first school to like shut down when this whole thing began. And now when they're doing it again, it kind of just brings back memories of what happened 2 years ago. So it
Yeah,
makes me a little
scary,
nervous, even though
scary
I'm trying not to.
yeah, for sure. But I mean, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. We're really hoping for the best. Harvard's done a really good job keeping everyone safe as best they can. Like our COVID protocols are, the best that they can be. And we're really, as a team, we are really following all the protocols. We wear masks in the locker room. We do everything we can to prevent the spread. So I think that's the only thing we really can keep doing at this point.
Now let's kind of transition from bad news to some good news that happened this year because you scored your first collegiate goal against St. Lawrence. Just talk about what it was like in that goal and who was the first person you called and where's the puck? Where do you keep the puck today?
Yeah, that was pretty exciting. I think I have my teammates to thank for that one. I think I was right place, right time on the power play. I was fortunate enough to redirect it in, but I think I got off the ice and my mom had already texted me. She's a big emoji girl, so I don't even know if I saw any words. It's just a bunch of emojis. She was pretty fired up. And then I think I called my dad after, just asked if he'd watched. They haven't been able to come out to any games yet this year, so they're always watching from afar. They probably screamed at me a couple times on the TV before because it took me a couple games to put the puck in the net. But yeah, after 4 or 5 games, it was awesome to get the monkey off the back. I keep the puck in my dorm room, just sitting in the window there. It was pretty exciting. It was awesome. My teammates' reaction on the bench was probably the best part of it. I think they were more excited than I was, which is just shows how awesome like the culture is at Harvard hockey.
Yeah, when the season ends, are you going to keep the puck at like your childhood home or like in your hometown, or are you just going to keep bringing it with you every year when you go back to school?
That's a good question. I don't really know. Maybe keep it back in the childhood room. Maybe, yeah. Try and get some new momentum going after that one. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll keep it with me for good luck. You never know.
Yeah, and obviously just looking at your stats from juniors, you were a huge goal scorer. So how good did it feel to kind of, like you said, get that monkey off your back and get the first one in college hockey? Because it's the first one I feel like is always the toughest one to get.
Yeah, no, definitely always the toughest one to get. It was awesome. I think too, like once you find your rhythm, as a forward or defenseman, or if you're just a goal scorer, like finding your rhythm is super nice. So getting the first one's awesome, and then you just want to keep. You don't want to think too much about it. You want to be in like your head, and if you're contributing to the team in ways other than goal scoring, like you're still making plays, being a good defensive player, being a good teammate, then I mean, the goals will come after that, and it's awesome to contribute on the scoreboard. But if you're doing what you can off, then that's all you can really ask for.
Yeah, and those are just good confidence built boosters as well, because I think something that a lot of hockey players don't like talking about, which I feel like they should talk more about, is just how important confidence is in the game. Because I know when I play, whenever I have more confidence, I feel like I play better. I have more energy compared to when I don't have confidence. And with regarding confidence, I feel like, confidence is very easy to lose, but it's so hard to gain confidence. So
Yeah,
just making the little plays will help build the confidence, which will ultimately help make you a better player.
definitely. Couldn't agree more.
Now, talk about the freshman class that you get to play with. It's a big class, obviously kind of 2 classes combined. So what's it been like to play with them, and how have you guys gotten to know each other since you're such a big class?
Yeah, no, it's a super kind of unconventional year. The backlog of COVID kind of, like you said, made one big class. So I think there's 14 like rookies on the team. It's a big group, but it's definitely like a special one. And I think just because COVID kind of did the same thing to all of us, that we're all in the same boat. So we really lean on each other for support. And I think that honestly just makes us so close. Like, even though there's a lot of us, we're all so close and we see each other, at the rink, outside the rink, dining halls, like we're always spending time together. But yeah, in a way, like all of that, misfortune from COVID brought us together. And I think we're such a close-knit group. So, I mean, I think we all looked at it like the best way we can. I don't think any one of us expected to have a class of 14, but we love it. We joke about it. It's fun. And we make it like the best that we can. So it's good.
And what's it like playing with the upperclassmen? Because I'm assuming it's probably weird for them that they play 1 year in college hockey. Then when they finally get back to playing games, like basically the whole team is like full of different players. So how have they tried to help your transition into college hockey, and what's it been like playing with them?
They've been awesome. I mean, they've really adjusted to it because it's probably just as hard on them as it is on us, but they've made it a blast. They really connect us together as well as a freshman group, but they're so good at integrating everyone. Like there's no divide there, and never will be a divide, I don't think. And they've been unbelievable. Our captains are upperclassmen, all of them.
Now, what did you like, I guess, how was it, was there like a period of time where you had to get rid of rust just because you didn't play at all last season? And what was that process like, trying to get rid of that rust so when you got back to playing games that it wasn't really a big factor for your team and for yourself?
Yeah, so before our season even started, we were having captain's practices, which was obviously good. And then before, like the official, like our first official game was Dartmouth. But prior to that, we were able to scrimmage the Boston Pride, which is a professional women's team. And that was really good, I think, to get the rust off. They were nice enough to come and scrimmage us at our rink twice. And they're a great team. They're all ex-college players playing professional now. So I think that was a really good way to just kind of get the rust off prior to playing an official NCAA game. And it just prepared us for those battles, for the speed that we're going to see in college, just to get more touches on our stick, get our feet under us again. And it was really good.
Yeah. What was the biggest difference, I think, from playing professional hockey players to college hockey players? Is there like any difference really, or is there like an adjustment you have to make, or is it kind of the same?
It was honestly, I couldn't really tell just because I hadn't played a hockey game in so long.
Yeah.
I don't really know if I could see much of a difference. I was just excited to put my skates back on, get out there and actually play like a real hockey game and not like scrimmages in the summer, which I think a lot of us were doing. But they're a great team. Like they're a bunch of some of the best from their respective college teams coming together to be on that professional team. So it was definitely unbelievable competition, and it was really fun.
Any former Harvard players that got to play for the Pride? That must have been cool for yourself to talk to and play against some alumni.
Yeah, I don't know if actually – I know that prior to that Pride team that they have right now, we did have Harvard girls, but the team that we played, I don't believe anyone on that team was Harvard alumni.
That's disappointing. That would have been cool to play.
Yeah, that would have been really fun.
Yeah, especially for your coach, since she's been there for so long. She probably knows everyone.
Definitely.
Now, kind of transitioning, let's talk about your off season and how you prepared for your first year in college hockey. So what was your off season like? Did you do anything interesting, whether it was hockey related or non-hockey related?
Yeah, so my off season, I was in San Jose, California, and I was working at the Sharks Ice, which is just the practice facility for the San Jose Sharks. And it was awesome. It was the best gig ever. I was training there, skating there, working out there, but I also had a job there. So I was coaching little kids and I was doing camps and working around the rink. It was the best setup ever. I loved it. Loved Northern California. And then definitely worked on my golf game a lot when I was up there. So it was hockey, golf, train, work, repeat, hiking sometimes. Just spending a lot of time with family, but it was awesome. Couldn't have had a better setup up there.
Now, what's your handicap looking like for golf after this past summer? Hopefully improved a little bit.
It definitely has to improve. I don't know if I can disclose because I don't want people to, get jealous of how good I really am. Mm-hmm. But definitely went up. Definitely lots of room for improvement, but got to work on my short game. That's the next step, but it was so much fun. I think I was on the golf course every single day in the summer. It was the best.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't played golf in like a few months, and every time when you get back to playing after not playing for golf, it's like it's such an adjustment. Like it's like at least for hockey, like after the first few minutes, you kind of like, all right, I kind of get it now. But for golf, it's like, oh my gosh, I need to learn how to do my swing again and all that stuff. But for the short game, I totally agree with you. My putting game is brutal. Like I could shoot like 3, get it on the green, and it's like 5 shots until it gets in the hole.
100%. Everything just goes to waste as soon as I get anywhere around the green. Then I gotta really dial it in. But I agree. I don't know if I'll be able to hit the ball off the tee box anymore when I come back to golf after this season. It's been so long.
And then also Northern California, what were some of the cool hikes you got to do there? Because I feel like people underrate Northern California. Everyone talks about the Southern California vibe just with the beaches and stuff. But I was just watching some YouTube videos recently of like some cool like hiking spots, and there was like a beach called like Thornton Bay Beach that was cool. So just some of the cool like what were some of the cool hiking spots you got to do there? Because I feel like I don't know, I feel like you probably like Northern California just because of how nice it
Loved
is.
it. Yeah, I loved it. I was in Los Gatos area a lot, so I did like a lot of Los Gatos creeks and trails. My family and I, like my parents are huge outdoors people, so we would try and hit a different hike every day. We lived in Campbell, which is just a little bit outside of San Jose, but there was just always tons. I think Los Gatos, we hit the same one a lot just because of like the incline, and it was right by a reservoir. It's really cool because I feel like these little hiking trails are maybe not talked about a lot or super underrated because like you said, everyone loves Southern California, but Northern California, it's not as touristy maybe, but it's beautiful. Like the weather is just so nice. People are great. Weather's great. So I think, living there was the best.
You don't want to reveal too many of your secret trails or else it'll start getting crowded and more annoying. So you kind of have to keep it on the down low a little bit.
Exactly. I got to keep my therapeutic trails to myself. But if anyone needs them, I mean, maybe I can share a few.
Yeah. Did you get to see any redwood forest trees? Because I think that's a big thing in Northern California, right? Or you didn't get the opportunity to do that?
I did.
That's cool.
It was more like if you go south a little bit, I think you get into that stuff. But I definitely think I did. I don't know if it was actually a redwood tree, but I remember standing next to a tree that looked like it shouldn't have even been real. Like I thought I was hallucinating. It was ginormous.
Oh yeah, those things are huge. Like you will see
Massive.
photos of them, and like you like, it's not that big, but seeing them with like compared to like a normal sized human, it's like shows you how massive they are. And the sad part is, I think a lot of them are going away just because the climate change. So it's you kind of need to start to enjoy them now.
Yeah, if anyone has a chance to go and see them, I would. It's like not even believable how big.
Yeah. Now on the hockey kind of side of things, what was it like kind of working with the Sharks? And did you get to see any Sharks players? That must have been cool if that happened.
Yeah. So my dad at the time, my dad was coaching with the San Jose Sharks, so that's why we were up there. So I'd actually be on the ice sometimes. So they'd have like their Sharks players on one end, but then me and my sister would claim the other end. Try and stay out of their way a little bit because when Carlson's coming down, you don't want to get in his way. But I would see them a lot. Actually, we would always split the ice. I have a lot of friends too that are my age that are drafted by San Jose, so I would see them, skate with them a little bit. It was honestly just such a good little community in San Jose.
Yeah, I don't know too many Sharks prospects. I had Thomas Bordelot on the podcast, and he's one of their top prospects. So hopefully you get to see him one day. I don't know if he was there or not this summer.
No, I don't think I saw him last summer, but I don't know if you know Ozzy wise, but he grew up in Alberta a little bit close to me, so I saw Ozzy out there a lot, putting in work, getting better.
I'm trying to think who Alex Young. I had him on the podcast recently. He's an Alberta kid, and he also was drafted by the Sharks too. So plays for Colgate. So I'm trying to think, but none of the NHL players I assume were there just because it's summertime, right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
There was a handful, but I think a lot of them were with their families wherever they were.
Yeah. Well, that's cool that you got to have that experience. You probably had the best training kind of setup because you're going against the best players in the world. Not a lot of players get to say that, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty neat, that's for sure.
Now, overall, how is training going for yourself? Like, what are you working on right now regarding your game?
Yeah, right now training's going awesome. I think there's so many resources at Harvard. So just like off the ice, obviously getting stronger, bigger, faster. A lot of emphasis on like, I think first 3 steps, like just continuing to build that explosiveness. And then on the ice, one of our coaches, Sid Daniels, she's an ex-Harvard hockey player. She does all the forward skills. So like on separate practice time, you can just text Sid, ask what you want to work on. And she is just unbelievable and coming out. We have a lot of ice always, so it's awesome. We have availability to that ice, and she comes out and works on right now kind of underhandling the puck and just focusing on that quick release because, you know, goalies are so good at the collegiate level that you got to find ways to beat them. If you have that extra stick handle or hold on to it too long, that window of opportunity probably isn't going to be there. So underhandling the puck, definitely drilling that into my head for sure.
Yeah, and you also get to go against Lindsey Reed in practice, who's one of the top goalies
Yeah.
in the NCAA, so that probably helps out a little bit as well.
Oh, definitely.
Now, did you face any challenges this past offseason preparing for the upcoming season with the pandemic kind of going on, but with some things opening back up? Because when you compared to the previous offseason, I felt like most hockey players were pretty much shut down. They couldn't go to gyms, and ice times were impossible to find.
Yeah, I think a little bit. Like, so the pandemic year is definitely the toughest, just with everything being shut down. But last off season up in California, it was a little bit tougher at first. Their COVID protocols were really bad in that Santa Clara County because COVID was so bad, but they still found ways to do it. Like, I think we had to come to the rink. It was during that phase where you were like home dressing,
Hmm.
wearing masks under the helmet. So like it was a little bit goofy, but like you did it just because you had like you wanted to get like you would honestly do anything at that point just to train, get touches. So maybe that was a little bit stricter. It was more of a hassle, but it still was a lot better than I know some places had it. So I was just grateful to even be able to get out, even if it meant home dressing, wearing masks under the helmet. It was fine. And then eventually, the phases kind of kept getting better, and then things started opening up fully, and then we were back to normal, and it was business as usual. So it wasn't too bad at all.
And when things were starting to open back up, did that change your approach for the off season? You're like, all right, and now I have more freedom to kind of do and train the way I'm normally used to training. So how did that change your approach for the off season? Just try and take advantage of it as much as you can and control the controllables like we talked about
Yeah.
previously.
Yeah, definitely. When things started opening up, it was like, it's it's go time. Like, I mean, maybe a little bit before, you sometimes get maybe a little bit unmotivated just because it's like so much things that you have to go through, and you really have to force yourself to like get up and get active and get going. But when things started opening up, it was like, let's go. Like, kind of reality set in. Like, it's no more playing around. Like, you kind of like you jump on every opportunity that you really have to be able to train. So the gym opened up like in the rink. I think it was shut a little bit before. And so then when that opened up, obviously utilizing that every day, and then everything else opening up, you really jump on the opportunities that you have, because again, even I think last summer, there were still some places that were shut down. So still some people were still going through what we went through a little bit over a year ago. So just being grateful that we had, those opportunities, and doing everything we can to keep getting better.
Yeah, I know in Ontario, like the restrictions are much, much more stricter
Yeah.
there than it is anywhere here in the US. So like I know a lot of those players were kind of still dealing with the same things that, most
Yeah.
hockey players are doing the previous off season.
Yeah, I had teammates in Ontario that were still, kind of working out at home, and doing everything they can to like make like makeshift weights so they could
Hmm.
just get lifts in. So I was super fortunate to have the resources that I did have, because I know some people still kind of had to battle with that a little bit.
Now, what did you do last year when the season was being played? Like, I guess, like, how does that work? Because normally when people don't have a season, it's because of injuries, but this one was kind of out of your control. So what are you like doing during that time to like stay
Yeah.
ready to play games?
When our season was canceled, I was living in Alberta in the house that I grew up in, and I went to Vimy Ridge Academy when I was in 7th grade, which is just a hockey school. Like, you go to school in the morning, and then all afternoon you have gym and hockey. And so I was actually able, when I moved back to Alberta during the pandemic year, every day I was able to get on the ice and kind of train with the grade 12s that I was, supposed to be my freshman year. So I was just training with the grade below me, some really good high level guys and girls that were playing at that school. So every day I would go out, skate with them. And then I had, kind of like a little home gym at home. So I was able to keep getting stronger with my sister at home. But it was awesome because in Alberta, I had access to that ice still. So they would scrimmage, every weekend, practice all week. So it was still good because I was still in that kind of practice, fast paced mode. Wasn't like college, of course, but it was the best it could be in that situation.
Now, did you watch any college hockey last year, or was it kind of hard to?
No, definitely I did, because I had, friends from New Hampton that had graduated that were playing. So obviously I was cheering them on, and I was getting pumped for them. It was a little bit tough just because it's just such a kick in the face, because you just want to be playing so bad. So to watch everyone else kind of having those seasons, it was a little bit tough, but it honestly just motivated you more because you knew that we were going to get our turn. But yeah, no, I definitely watched just to keep up with my old friends, my old teammates, and cheer them on, even though we couldn't be playing.
I guess what were your thoughts on just the results of last year with UMass winning it for the men's side and then Wisconsin winning again for the women's side?
Yeah, the Wisconsin game was crazy. I remember watching that on TV when it went into overtime, and that was pretty exciting. I know a lot of girls in that Wisconsin team, so I was pumped for them. And obviously, we wanted to be in that spot, and like we wanted to have that season, get those opportunities. But I mean, it is what it is. And then the men's I think was actually really exciting too. I remember following that all the way down to the wire, and it's pretty cool to see. Even if you can't be in it, like you still get fired up because watching other people have success just makes you want to be so much more successful so badly, and you want to be in that position as well. So like I said, just kind of using it to keep boosting motivation.
Yeah, I thought that semifinal game between UMass and Duluth was probably the best game of the season last year. And then
That
once
would
it
have went
went,
into overtime. Like
yeah,
how many times? I
no, that
remember.
was the North Dakota Duluth game.
Oh
The
yeah,
the
yeah,
that
yeah.
was crazy too. Yeah,
That was
but
nuts.
I think eventually by like the fourth overtime, like, oh my gosh, like the players are getting so tired, like they need to score a goal at some point.
Yeah,
But
I remember watching. I was in a hotel room. I don't know where I was, but I remember watching that one, and I followed that one because I was so. I just wanted to see who was gonna win. I couldn't imagine how they were feeling after 4 periods of overtime.
yeah,
That's absurd.
yeah, like I just remember watching that game and like it was by like the third overtime. It was like 1 a.m. And I was like, I'm not going to bed. I've already
Crazy.
made so many hours watching this game. I'm gonna see who wins it just because that's
Yeah.
just so. Eventually, it did happen. I was like, thank goodness. Turned the TV right off, went to bed.
Okay.
So, but no, that was a fun game. But no, that UMass Duluth game was super fun to watch just because Duluth beat them the previous year to win the national championship. To see them come
Yeah.
back was pretty cool. And yeah, I'm excited because the Frozen Four is going to be in Boston this year, so it should be cool to go to those games in person.
Yeah. That should be super fun. Boston's always super fun. Fun spot, especially for hockey.
Now, going back to school, was that an adjustment for yourself? Because talking to Kristen last year, apparently the whole team took gap years. And how does that work with eligibility? And what's it been like going back to school?
Yeah, so I took a semester online. I took one semester online thinking that we were going to have like a condensed season in the winter. So out of the 14 of the first years, I think 4 of us enrolled and we did one semester. And Harvard did a great job just kind of working that online. It was tough. I mean, some national students were able to be on campus. So me and Paige Lester, another Canadian, we were in Canada. We couldn't be there, but we were doing school online. And then we took a leave of absence once our season was like officially a no-go. So it wasn't too bad getting back into school this year because I had taken a semester last fall. I mean, I didn't do any school this spring, but I think a lot of us tried to do as, as much as we could to keep our brain like activated. Like I think I read a book a week, and it was actually more fun because you got to spend more time doing leisure reading and stuff that you don't normally get to do when you're in a school year, just because you have so much going on. But then when we got back to campus, I think professors and TAs know that a lot of us did take gap years and semesters off because of COVID. So they were super accommodating. Like they want you to be successful. Like they will do everything they can to make sure that you're not, falling behind. Like your teammates do everything they can to keep you up to date and, make sure that you're successful in the classroom just as good as you are on the ice. So I actually don't think it was too bad at all.
Yeah, that must stink though to do some online school because the part of going to Harvard is you get to work with the best professors like in the
Yeah.
country, and the fact to do it online, I feel like is probably not as like I guess innovative if that's the right word than doing it in
No,
person.
definitely. There was definitely an aspect that was lost because a huge part of Harvard is just the networking and like the relationships that you build on campus are unbelievable and they stay with you the rest of your life. But I will say like Harvard did as best of the job. Like I don't think it couldn't have been any better. Like we were doing synchronous classes on Zoom and it was still very interactive for what it was. So I still was able to meet a lot of people, even if it was over Zoom, because you have to collaborate on projects and stuff. So it was tough. It definitely wasn't that in-person aspect that you get, but a lot of us knew that. And, we still just looked at it with an open mind and tried to be as positive as we could be about it.
Now, how did you handle the Zoom breakout rooms? Because maybe it's a little bit different in Harvard, but those things were brutal for me.
Oh yeah, some like usually it wasn't too bad. The only time I would get a little scared is I took sign language on Zoom last fall, and sometimes they would like just spotlight your face when you were to present like a mini assignment. So sometimes I'd be spotlighted and I would get like Zoom stage fright, and I would forget how to like sign.
Yeah.
So that was probably the only time I was really pretty shocked there, but not too bad. Definitely some awkward pauses, some awkward silences. You kind of are waiting. People are on mute and you're waiting for like someone to make the next move.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of us are ready to get out of the Zoom phase and just get back to person.
Yeah, that was like the worst part was just like Zoom, because I'm a communications major. So a lot of my
Yeah.
classes required like kind of group projects or just doing group work. And whenever you went to the Zoom breakouts and no one had their camera on, no one was talking, it was basically just like individual work. It wasn't like any group
Oh,
work at all.
definitely.
And then the professor would pop in, you would just be like, yeah, we're working on this. Like everyone's just lying.
Definitely. Definitely the professors, TAs would come around and he would, yeah, I agree.
Now, how have you learned to kind of balance both school and hockey? Because part of, like I said, going to Harvard, obviously you're going there to play hockey, but you're also it's also so hard to get into that school just like academically alone. So how do you like balance both the academic workload that an Ivy League student has, but also the lot of like non-time, I guess the lot of the hockey side as well, since you have not a lot of time doing that as well?
Yeah, I think actually high school. So like New Hampton really prepped me for it. New Hampton's just a prep school, and it followed like kind of this like a very similar to like kind of a college schedule. So I felt like I was pretty prepared going into it. And then when I actually got there, time management is huge, and just being organized and trying to like get your work done, I think, as quickly as you can, like not prolonging it and procrastinating it. So I'm very big on like when I get an assignment or I have a due date, like try and get it done a couple days in advance just to stay ahead of the curve. I know a lot of people are really good under pressure and they kind of wait till the last minute to do it, and they can bang out an essay and get perfect on it. I think if I tried to do that, I'd probably fail.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it would go too well. So I'm very like when I get something like an assignment, like I got to do it right away, and then I can focus on hockey and be better there.
I think for certain subjects I can do that where like I can like wait until the last minute, but like some subjects I have to like take my time on. Like math, I took that last semester. That was like a time consuming subject for
Yeah,
me.
yeah, definitely varies based on subjects. That's for sure.
Now, also just the Harvard thing as well. But what's been the favorite? What's been the most, I guess, the best class you've taken so far? I'm curious to hear.
Ooh, I actually probably the one that I took this last semester, and it was just Introduction to Psychological Sciences. So I think I haven't declared like my concentration is what they call them instead of majors. But I'm probably gonna major in cognitive neuroscience and evolutionary psychology. So I took like just like the basic introductory psychology course that you need for all the life sciences. And it was so interesting. And the professor was unbelievable. Like he's a very well-known professor, and he's written a lot of books. And I think his lectures, like every time he spoke, I was just jaw dropped because he was so good at just communicating and engaging like all the students in the lecture hall. It was pretty big class. I think there was maybe a little bit over 250 students. And it was awesome. Like everything, I know some people don't like science, but everything that came out of his mouth, I was like in awe by. So I would say that class was pretty cool.
I think like I'm not like there's certain sciences I'm not into, like chemistry, physics, like no
Yeah.
thank you. But like when it comes to like biology and like psychology, I think that's really interesting, especially
Yeah,
with psychology, just because I think you can apply it to different things, which I think is interesting. Like I know for me as a
definitely.
big sports fan, it's kind of cool hearing sports psychologists and just hearing how like the mindsets you need to have when you play different sports and kind of dealing with the mindset of recovering through an injury and all that kind of stuff. I think it's
Yeah.
really interesting, that whole aspect of it.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot about mental health and psychology that goes into sports. So that's a really big reason why I'm super intrigued by it as well.
Is that something like was that something you want to do like after college, like be a psychologist or like work in that field?
Yeah, definitely. I think working with people, just anyone who needs a little bit of any kind of guidance, like I really want to definitely work with people, be able to help people in ways that people have helped me growing up. So anything psychology, like psychological sciences, human anatomy, biology, like it's right up my alley. I love that stuff for sure. So definitely.
Now let's kind of get into the beginning of your hockey career. So on your elite prospect page, it says you're from Alberta, but kind of talking to you for a little bit, it seems like you kind of move around different places in California, Michigan. But so what was it like, I guess, living in Alberta for the time you did, and just talk about why you started playing hockey?
Yeah, so my dad, I guess I was just born right into it. My dad played in the NHL for a couple seasons in the AHL. So he's back and forth, and he put us in skates, all me and my siblings. I think right out of the womb we got our skates on, so we got started pretty early. And I actually was born in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and he was still playing at the time. And then we came over to Alberta, Calgary, Edmonton. So we kind of were bouncing around when he was still ending his career. Me and my oldest brother, he just finished his career at Alabama Huntsville after their season, or their program was shut down, but he's still playing professional for the Havoc in Alabama. And then my little sister plays as well here in Michigan for Little Caesars. So just big hockey family. I think it's just run in our DNA. And I'm super fortunate that it has. Like, it's been just, I think, such a big part of our life, if not like our entire life, because after he finished playing, he got into coaching. So his first coaching gig was in Edmonton. So we stayed in Alberta. He was coaching the WHL team, the Oil Kings at the time. And then from there, we just bounced around all over. So it's been really exciting. It's been really fun. I wouldn't change it for anything.
Now, I guess I didn't know that before this interview.
Yeah.
So which teams did he play for? I'm just curious.
He played for the Calgary Flames. So he was born in Calgary. And then I think he played for Florida Panthers as well. Honestly, I couldn't even list them all. He's all over the place. I think those are the two that stand out to the most. And then my sister was born in Peoria, Illinois. So he was with the Rivermen at that time. But honestly, it's a great question. I should probably ask him more about that.
So growing up, moving around these different places, like, how did you handle that? Did you like kind of like it? Because I know some kids, they're like used to it, but some kids, they're like, it's kind of hard to adjust to different spots growing up.
Yeah, it was definitely challenging at times. Like, I don't think I lived in a town more than 2-3 years. So like, you're always on to the next thing. But in a way, it makes you so versatile, and it really makes you able to adapt and be good in new situations. So I think me and my siblings are really good at, just being plopped wherever and then working with it and thriving wherever we go. So it's definitely, it was an adventure growing up. Like, everything was always changing. It was super fun. Me and my family are so close because whenever we moved, like, the only thing that was really familiar was each other. So our family's huge. My sister's probably my best friend. But definitely could be challenging at times. Especially like I would say more challenging when you got older. So like that middle school, early high school phase, just because, there's like established friend groups at places. You're kind of the new kid, but you were always the new kid. So I think we got used to it pretty quickly. And if anything, it just made you a better communicator. Like, you had to be forced to make friends and put yourself out there. So I'd say definitely super advantageous, but had its drawbacks as well.
Now, I guess also, what's it like being a kid of an NHL player? How's that like? Is there any cool things you got to do that, a lot of hockey kids didn't get to do? I'm assuming you got to go on the ice a few times.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was cool. Like, I feel like I grew up in a rink. So when I was like, some of my earliest memories, hanging out in, like the family room after the hockey games, waiting for him. I know when my oldest brother, I wasn't born yet, but I think when he was like 2, he like went on the ice and like sang the national anthem while my dad was like holding him in his gear. So there's like funny pictures, funny memories. Definitely super cool. He taught me, so much, like almost everything I know about hockey. He really sparked my love for the game. So like, I owe so much to my dad for that. But definitely super cool.
Mm-hmm. And just thinking about the Harvard women's hockey roster, Hannah Chorsky, her dad also played in the NHL.
Yeah.
Is that kind of cool to have that connection with one of your teammates?
Yeah, I think they may have played against each other at one point.
Oh, that's cool.
Like, it's funny. Yeah, like whenever, it's really funny because like, I feel like he knows so many people, so I'll come back home and I'll be like, hey, Dad, like, my buddy's dad played so-and-so, like, did you ever play against him? And if I name a name, he'll be like, oh, yeah, like, I know him. So, like, it's cool because you see all these connections form. Like, the hockey world is so small. So it's definitely pretty interesting.
Yeah, and he won a Stanley Cup, too, if I'm not mistaken, so that's pretty cool as well.
Yeah, super cool.
Now, kind of, who was your favorite player growing up? Was it your dad, or was it one of the superstars he played with that you kind of liked watching?
No, I honestly don't think it was my dad. My dad was more of a physical, like, tough guy. Like, he was just nails. He was a defenseman. I'm a centerman, so definitely admired him, but don't know if I would say he was my favorite. I think I loved Brendan Gallagher for some reason. Like, he's, good Canadian boy. Like, I think he's not not very big. Like I'm not overly big myself, but he's just so tenacious on the ice. Like I loved watching him play because he's just like tiny but so mighty, and he just got the job done. Like he had put the puck in the net. Like he was such a contributor. Like he's not one of those big names that you hear every single day. Like he's not making really fancy plays, but I just loved how he played. And then now I love watching Patrice Bergeron now that I'm in Boston.
Yeah.
Like being a centerman, like he's just such a good two-way center. Like he takes care of both ends, and his face-offs are just nuts. And like that's I think a huge part of the game and something I take pride in as a centerman. So I really watch him in the face-off dot and watch him be a centerman and really try to mimic my game after him now that I'm in Boston. It's pretty cool he's there too.
Yeah, and Bergeron's also a super humble guy as well. I think that's what makes him
Yeah.
just like such a likable guy because I feel like no one would chirp him at all, even if he like
Oh,
does something bad.
no. Like I don't know what you would be able to chirp him like about. Like he's just
Yeah.
so solid. Yeah, great guy as well, which I admire.
Yeah, so I'm a big Bruins fan, and Brad Marchand's my favorite player, and it's kind of funny because him and Brendan Gallagher, I feel like go at it all the time, especially
Yeah.
when the Montreal-Boston rivalry. But apparently they trained together in the off season, which I found pretty funny.
Oh, I would not have expected that at all.
Yeah, I think they're both played in the same junior team in Vancouver, so that's why they trained together. So I thought that was like really interesting to hear.
Yeah, it is funny. I wouldn't have expected that either.
Now, before you played with Harvard, you played with New Hampton, but you also played with the Boston Junior Eagles. So how'd you get the opportunity to go to those two teams and just talk about your experience with those two teams and like what's the best memories you have with them?
Yeah, so the reason I went to New Hampton was just like going back to that moving factor. Like I was moving around so much, and it kind of was at that point like if we moved to a state that didn't really have a huge hockey hub, like I don't know where I was gonna play. So I like my family thought it would just be kind of a safe bet to go and like choose a prep school that you'd be happy at, so you can graduate and play hockey. Because like if they moved around in the background, like I would still be at that one prep school, so it wouldn't affect me as much. So just through like an alumni that went to New Hampton who actually worked with Vegas Golden Knights, when my dad was with that organization, he recommended New Hampton and said he went there. And I went and toured the school, talked to Craig Churchill, the head coach, who's now like one of my best friends to this day, even more so. Like he was awesome. So I was really attracted to the school right away. The campus was super small, which I loved, super close-knit community. And like Church, just the coach, just unbelievable guy, great coach. Really liked his coaching philosophies at that school. So landed on New Hampton, and I just loved my time there. But during the couple months before the prep season starts, you play AAA so that's where like Boston Junior Eagles came into play. And essentially it was just kind of like a team made up of a bunch of prep school girls from all different schools. So I think there was one year we had like 4 New Hampton girls on that team, 5 New Hampton girls, and then a couple girls from Tabor, Nobles, like just all over the place. And I loved it. Was super fun because you'd go back to New Hampton, but then on the weekends go play with like all your other prep school friends on that one team. It was super fun experience. I think the best memory I have is winning nationals in California with that Boston Junior Eagles team. We beat Shattuck in my last year there, and it was unbelievable. One of the funnest weekends of my life.
Oh yeah, and well, how did those experiences help prepare you for college hockey? Obviously, academically, like you said with New Hampton, since you're kind of in that college schedule, but hockey-wise, how did it help prepare you once you started playing games with Harvard? Like, have you noticed like what you learned with New Hampton kind of paying off with Harvard now?
Yeah, definitely. New Hampton was really good because it followed, like I said, like a similar college schedule. So like you'd go to school in the morning, do your classes, but then every single day after school, like you go to the rink and then you train, have, hard, long, really competitive practices. And then you get into that routine. So it really set me up to have a really good hockey routine with a good academic routine as well. But the pace is, prep school hockey is awesome in New England. It's fast, it's competitive. You really develop your offense, you develop your defense. So I'm so happy. I wouldn't have written it any other way. Super happy with my time at New Hampton.
Now, talk about your recruitment process and why did you choose to go to Harvard? Because if my knowledge is correct, you can't sign like a national letter of intention with an Ivy League school until like a certain point or something like that. Like, there's a different rules for getting recruited by an Ivy versus other colleges.
Yeah, so it's a lot different now too, just with NCAA in general, because they changed the rule at what age you can actually like go on officials and talk to colleges. I think it's like after your sophomore year. But when I was playing, the rules were completely different. Like that didn't apply, so colleges could reach out pretty young. and they would have to go through your AAA coaches. So I was with Little Caesars at the time. I was really young. I was still I was in the college process. I was talking to a bunch of schools, but Harvard's honestly always been a dream school. Ever since I was little, when I found out that you could even play college hockey, I was super young, but right away just fell in love with Harvard. I think I was 5 or 6, 7 years old, and I watched a Harvard versus Browns game. And, I just picked the team that I saw was winning. And I was I was that's sick. I'm going to go to Harvard. And so it's kind of a cool story, but a joke. Cause when I was really young, I would tell people oh, I'm going to go to Harvard. And I had no idea what that meant. I saw it in movies, I saw it glorified in books, no idea what it meant.
Yeah.
Didn't know it was even a good school. I was just super young and just wanted to play for the team that was winning and scoring goals online. And then when I actually got into the process, I feel Harvard was always my number one. It was driven into my brain. And then I was fortunate enough to go out and see campus when I was super young, go on an unofficial visit. And the second I stepped on campus, I was sold. It had always been a dream, and I always romanticized it in my head. But then when I actually got there, I was this is too good to be true. So I was sold pretty quickly.
And you also get to play under Coach Stone, who I think got her 200, 300th win. How many wins does she have now? It's a lot.
It's honestly so much. So many wins. So many. Just she's an unbelievable coach. She is just, if anyone, if I could be anyone one day, she's such a historic and renowned coach. I think she's really built this program up from the ground up, and she's just one of the most respected people I know.
I also think she's one of the first women coaches to reach that milestone too, which is also a huge accomplishment.
I think it was 500, 500 NCAA wins. Yeah.
Yeah, what's it like playing with a legend like that? Talk a little bit more what's she kind of off camera? I feel she's probably I don't know. I feel she's probably super funny, but doesn't really show it on the bench when you see your team play.
Yeah, she's a great energy. Every time she comes in the locker room, she greets everyone the same every single day. So it's really nice to get that consistency out of her. She really wants, she expects so much out of her players. She has coached some of the most successful women after hockey and college at Harvard. So to be able to play underneath her and be a part of that tradition and part of that group, something that drew me to Harvard as well. Aside the fact that I, just loved Harvard from a little age. When I actually, found out who was coaching Harvard and, her accolades and what she was about, her philosophy, it just nailed it in for me. It's something that, I could only ever hope to be like her in the future, something that I've already grown so much as a person, as a player, playing under Coach Stone. And I'm really excited. Hopefully she stays for my entire college tenure. She's the best. I've learned so much from her so far already.
Yeah, and looking at the history of Harvard women's hockey, in the early 2000s, what was crazy is a lot of the top NCAA point leaders, still today, played on that Harvard team in the early 2000s, and they had 300 plus points, and they were not even playing as many games as they play now, which is crazy to think about. So, and just to see the success they've had after college and just how that tradition gets built, is it, as a player, is it such an honor to be a part of that tradition, and how do you try to keep building on the tradition that the alumni built in the early 2000s and beyond?
Absolutely. It's such a storied program, and every time we're on the ice, we have all the female banners on one side of our rink, and every time we're practicing, playing, skating, you kind of look over to the banners and you see who came before you, and you see Coach and how she coached those players before you. So it's super surreal to even think that you get to be a part of that, and you can only hope to continue on that tradition, that legacy after. So definitely something special and something I'll never take for granted.
Now, something that was introduced to college hockey last year was 3-on-3 overtime. As a player, what's it like to watch those and be a part of them? And how do you try to maintain possession of the puck in your own zone and still make line changes and get fresh bodies and create offensive chances? Because that seems kind of the main focal point regarding the 3-on-3 overtime.
Yeah, I think it's overtime is you always want to get that regulation win. You always want to try and win before, but if it comes to overtime, I think everyone's excited. It's, you love playing 3-on-3 in practice. It gets you fired up. You have so much time and space with the puck. I think we have so many skilled upperclassmen and so many skilled players on our team. You really want to get out there and you want to end it right away. And so I think our last game, we actually went into overtime and we scored, I think, 12 seconds in, and it's so fun. We practice it a lot in practice, just because you always want to be ready. And so we really emphasize like possession, never forcing a play, don't start anyone's breakout, like just doing the little things to keep the puck on your stick and then hopefully end the game as soon as we can.
Now, what have you taken away from your college hockey experience so far at Harvard, even though it's been half a year, I guess? What have you taken away from it, and how are you going to use it, I guess, moving on for the rest of your first year playing there?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway is like time is so valuable. Like I feel like it's going by so fast, just in a blink of an eye. So really coming to the rink every single day, always wanting to get 1% better. Keeping your motivation high, keeping your work ethic high, doing everything you can to just keep on that steady incline towards the end of this season and then also in the coming years. And then like we talked about before, just keeping your body as best shape, as best physical health that you can. I think the biggest takeaway is this season, is already going by so fast, but you still have a long college road ahead. So you really want to do everything you can to make sure that you're getting better, staying healthy each progressive year until the end of your college year.
So we're now in a segment I like to call the non-hockey segment, where I ask you some hockey-related questions and some non-hockey-related questions as well, just to kind of get to know you a little bit off the ice. So my first question to you is, what is the most interesting thing you've seen or read this week?
I've really gotten into Criminal Minds. So I'm just going to put that out there. Highly recommend. I have a terrible attention span when it comes to like Netflix and TV shows. I can never find something that sticks. I feel like I watch something for 10 minutes and then I put it away and never see it again.
Yeah.
But over like 2 days ago, everyone had flown out home to go back home, and I was still at campus, and my flight didn't leave till the next morning. So I was forced to like watch something, and I put on Criminal Minds, and I was like, sold. So good. So good.
Yeah. Who's been the best villain? I've only watched one, where it was like this guy in a barn. It was like in the South somewhere. It was like a 2-episode thing. I think it was like season 2, but the guy was super creepy. So I couldn't watch that night.
Yeah, it's super creepy, but like I said earlier, like it's super psychological too, because like they do so much in the episodes that to like profile these criminals. And like now I think I want to be like a behavioral like analysis. Like every time I watch something, I'm like
Yeah.
so doing. It's just so cool. Like it's so smart and advanced. And I think the acting is so good. The script is so good. So it's the first show in a while it's made me really dial it in, but I like it a lot.
What were your thoughts on the Trevor Zegras assist, and just your overall thoughts on that? Because I don't know if you saw John Tortorella's analysis on it. He said it was bad for the game, which I don't understand why he said that. I think it's, when does a goal ever hurt the game?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think everyone was just like, I don't even know if I was surprised. Like, I think the game has just evolved so much, and like he's such an elite player. Like plays like that are bound to happen. I don't think it's bad for the game at all. I think it's creative. I mean, the puck went in the net, and a goal's a goal, so it doesn't matter if it was, one of the scrappiest goals or one of the prettiest goals in the game. He got it done, and I think just the way he did it was really freaking cool. So
Yeah, he's honestly becoming one of my new favorite players in the NHL, just because, I don't know, I feel like he kind of exuberates my generation of hockey, just young, having fun, like not really thinking about other stuff. I think that's cool. And I don't know if you saw this, but there's a press conference where he brought like a Baby Yoda toy for Star Wars night and like played it in front of the press conference thing. I thought that was pretty funny. She just seems like a cool dude.
yeah, he keeps it light, and I think that's so good. Like he doesn't put a lot of pressure on himself. It seems, he goes out and he works hard, and he's already so successful at the NHL level, and so clearly he's doing something right. So, I mean, I think the way he chooses to do things is working out for him just fine.
Now, I don't know if you have a Spotify account, but what was your number one listen to artist, and what music do you just like to listen to if you don't have one?
I'm a big country girl, so my number one was Morgan Wallen and Luke Combs. Just never a bad time for country. Put it on quite often. And then honestly, like everything, like rap before games, maybe like throwbacks, like early 2000s, EDM, like I'm all over the place, but country was definitely my number one listen to this year.
Yeah, Morgan Wallen has one song called Somebody's Problem. That was a good summer vibe for yours truly, so I really enjoyed that one.
It's great. He's great. The best. I'm like, never can go wrong if you put him on.
What's your favorite thing to do in Boston? Because I know you're talking about how much you love Northern California, and I have to disagree with that because I'm from Boston, and I think Boston's number one city in my opinion. But it could be number two for you. I understand.
It could be number two. No, Boston. I like just being. So we're a little bit outside. We're in Cambridge, which I think technically isn't Boston, but it's close enough.
Yeah.
Being on campus, our campus is beautiful. I love walking around campus. But then a lot of my friends and I, we like to go out for dinner in Boston if we ever want to like treat ourselves and just have a little night to ourselves. It's always fun getting dinner and walking around the city. Like right before we left, a couple girls in my class got dinner, and then we saw like a Christmas market thing in Boston, which is really cool. So it's just a really vibrant city, and I feel like there's a lot of good people. Like you can never go wrong if you want to go like to Newbury Street. I think if I'm not mistaken, that's that really popular street. So we go down there sometimes, just walk around. It's really
Yeah, I had dinner in the North End last night, and oh my gosh, that chicken parm was 10 out of 10. And then just the dessert after it was, I'm usually not the biggest dessert guy. I tried to stay out of that stuff, but once in a while you got to treat yourself, and that's definitely something good to do.
You do. You can never, sometimes you need it.
Yeah, it's the holidays, so I was like, whatever, like I'll just do it.
You got to treat yourself. No shame.
I guess biggest pet peeve for me, it's traffic. One thing that I hate about Boston is just how horrible the traffic is and how no one can drive. So that really bothers me. What's your biggest pet peeve?
That's a good one. I would agree. And then I would also say airports. Just airports in general. Like this maybe is a similar feeling to traffic. I feel like I was like in a physical human traffic jam because I waited at the baggage check, like the drop off bag for like an hour and 15 minutes on my way home. And especially during the holidays, it's just absurd. It's crazy. So luckily I got there with enough time to kind of wait in that line for almost like 2 hours. It was nuts. So airports in general.
It's probably even worse now with the pandemic. So I haven't been to an airport in like 10 years. It's been a while. I usually just drive everywhere. So yeah.
That's a good call. If I could drive everywhere, I would 100%.
Well, most of the places I need to go to are in just like the New England area. So I don't really need to like fly, but I think in the future I probably have to get back on an airplane at some point if I need to go down to the Midwest or West Coast or someplace like that. That's a bit of a long drive.
Hopefully the pandemic will be fine, that it won't be as much of a hassle at that point.
Yeah, fingers crossed on that. You just never know, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Now, if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself?
Ooh, I'm gonna have to go with Olivia Rodrigo, and when she's done with the High School Musical acting career. It's kind of a joke on the team. A lot of when I got in, everyone started calling me Liv and Olivia because they think I look like her. I mean, I think I sound like her. I might be a better singer if I do say so myself. I would say Olivia. She's a pretty cool girl. I really like her work in High School Musical.
Yeah, that would be a good Halloween costume. I don't know if you thought about that.
I did. I know I thought about it, but I don't know if anyone would. Like, I feel like I'd be wearing normal clothes, and because I don't know what she would really wear. But maybe carry on a microphone or something next year.
I don't know. You gotta maybe look at that album cover and like kind of copy that off.
Well, that was another one of my top listen to. I don't know if I should, rat myself out there, but definitely had some Olivia Rodrigo tunes pumping for the whole year.
Yeah, I had Justin Bieber in my top 5, so no shame of admitting. No shame. Sometimes you needed some good guilty pleasure songs.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, speaking of your teammates, who's the funniest on the team?
I'd say Keely Moy or Emma Buckles by like a country landslide. They're just two seniors. It's so funny. Like so funny in the way that you just look at them and like they don't even have to be like talking. Yeah, I look at Keels and I just laugh. And then Emma, I have a couple classes with Emma, and she's so funny. Every time we have a conversation, we can't take each other seriously. It's some of those things where you feed off of each other's humor a little bit. So yeah, those two definitely give me a chuckle throughout the year. Gonna miss them a lot when they go. Sad to see those two go.
Now, you obviously have the best style on the team, but besides yourself, who has the best style in Harvard women's hockey? Who's number 2?
I would say off the ice, like Chloe.
Both. Yeah.
Chloe Ashton off the ice has some unbelievable outfits. She can really put together a nice fashion statement. I don't think I've ever seen Chloe in a bad outfit. And then on the ice, I'll give a shout out to my roommate, my best friend Paige Lester. She's got some pretty good on ice style. Just looks pretty fluid when she's out there. Looks good. She always keeps it neat. So I'm gonna say Paige on that one.
Yeah, well, we're doing this thing on our IG, like best pregame outfits of the weekend, and we haven't seen Harvard post anything. So is that going to come at some point? We want to see
You know
that.
what? Yeah, maybe we'll put in a request to get our outfits. We're all looking pretty uniform. Like we all wear black pants and black dress shoes. So the only thing we have a little bit of flexibility with is our tops. But I still think we look pretty sharp when we walk into a rink. So I'll definitely put in a request.
Business casual. Sometimes that's better than just going out there, because sometimes you can completely miss when you do something that's not like a little too out there. So I
Play
think
it
sometimes
safe.
black pants
Yeah,
are play it safe.
definitely play it safe. And it looks good all walking in the same thing, I think, too. It's
Oh yeah,
awesome.
looks cool. And also at the end of the season, we're gonna find out who has the best style in both men's and women's hockey. So I kind of want Harvard to kind of show themselves out there, you know.
You know what? I'll put in a word. I'll make sure that we get some pictures out there.
Awesome. We need that feature. So I see a lot of teams doing it. So I'm trying to encourage all teams to do it, because I think it's a cool part of the game.
I agree. I think it's cool. Look good, play good.
Now, kind of back to some related hockey questions, but what's the most embarrassing moment you've ever had in hockey?
Oh, I think of this right away. I don't know if I kind of laugh at myself about this, but when I was playing Little Caesars, I was like my U14 year. I had like, I don't know if people call these different things based on different places, but like pant shells or like breezers, some people call it, like just like what you put over your normal pants. I don't know what you call it. What do you call it?
Is there overalls?
No. Like the pant shells, like just like like people call it breezers or like.
I have no clue, honestly.
Well, it's like if I have black hockey pants, but I put on like the orange Little Caesars like pants. You know what I mean?
Oh, like the stuff where you put the socks on, like the Velcro stuff?
It's like a slip cover that goes over your normal hockey pants. So like I wear like normal black like Bauer pants, but I pull on like the orange Little Caesar shells. So it's like a shell that goes over top.
I think is that a women's hockey thing, or maybe it's, I don't know.
Maybe, but it's just
Yeah.
like you put on like your pants, so it's like everyone has black pants on, but you put on like your shell, so it's like you all look the same, so you're wearing like orange Little Caesars pants. It's called different things. So I'm like in the middle of a shift and I have like my shells on and they're done up, but I guess they actually like weren't done up, so like my pants like fell off in like the middle of the shift, but like I had like the puck on my stick. I didn't want to dump the puck away, so I'm like skating around with like my pants essentially like around my ankles like mid shift. I mean, I could hear like the parents in the crowd like in hysterics. I hear like my coaches like, I don't know if they're yelling at me to get off, but like I had like I didn't know what to do, so I just kind of played like a whole shift of hockey with like no pants on.
Yeah.
And I kind of look back on it and laugh. Like, it was pretty funny.
I call those hockey pants, because maybe it's a women's hockey thing, I don't know, but you usually put on like the pants with like the Velcros on where you can put your socks on. So
Yeah.
that's what I call them. I don't know if like
I hear different, like I know people in Minnesota like call them like breezers, or like I hear different things everywhere, but it's just like the slip that I had on over my pants.
Yeah. I know what you're talking. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I call them hockey pants. Maybe that's probably not the right name for it, but who
those
knows?
things they had a mind of their own that game. And then when I got off the bench, my coach was like, what just happened? And I was like, I'm sorry. I don't know.
Now, do you think checking should be allowed in the women's game? I know that's been a debate, so I'm curious to hear your opinion on it.
No, I think that, yeah, if it's like in a state, like if people look at it like as an opportunity to like elevate like the physicality and to get possession, but not in a way that you're checking to intentionally like hurt people. But yeah, I don't think it would be a bad thing at all. Like I think it would, make everyone play with their head up maybe a little bit more and kind of bring in a new skill set, because you can definitely still be physical and play the body in the female game, but a lot of the time you can still get away with maybe like suicide passes because you know that someone's not going to come up and smoke you open ice like it would in a men's game. So yeah, I think it'd be cool if you implemented that, because you'd be forced to, add new skill sets to your game and maybe think a little bit differently.
Yeah. Have you ever like thrown a check in hockey? Like, I feel like you've played hockey for all your life. Like, I feel like there's gonna be one point where you just like checked someone and bodied someone by mistake or something like that. I don't know if it's happened during college or not, but
not during college. Maybe growing up, I accidentally got a little too aggressive. I mean, maybe there was a few times that come to mind where I played the body in more of like a kind of rubbing out kind of way, but you try to keep it clean as best you can. I
Yeah.
mean, no one likes sitting in the box.
Oh yeah, I never like getting in the box either, but
Yeah,
have you ever
for sure.
been like checked before yourself, or you've avoided that? I feel like you're a good job you can avoid that stuff.
Yeah, I feel like I've done a pretty decent job avoiding it. I feel like most of the times that I get like injured might be self-inflicted. Like I'm like
Hmm.
tripping on my feet and I'm smashing the boards myself. So like, I feel like I've done a pretty decent job avoiding that so far, especially in college. I can't think of a time where I've gotten like hurt or injured, knock on wood, too badly.
Yeah, I'll knock on wood right now too.
Yeah.
So now, what should be done to help grow women's hockey in your opinion? I know the tournament expansion seems like a good start, but I feel like for me, television, like showing all those games, I think that would help. Like, I think if more people see it, they would want to go to the games and help promote it and like follow it. And I
No,
don't see enough of women's hockey
yeah,
like on TV. It's mostly there's not a lot of college hockey on like TV, but whenever there is, it's just usually the men's game. So
yeah, no, definitely. I couldn't agree more. I think televising it and just getting it out there is super good for the growth of the game. You see like the My Y tour, which is like the national programs like Hockey Canada and Hockey USA going at it the past couple months in these games. So I think that's they're making a big push to elevate the game and get it out to more people. And then just continuing to, I think, voice and showcase college hockey and professional hockey. Like, I think the Twitter movement and like the Instagram movement of like the Close the Gap was just a great example of what can happen when we really advocate for like the women's game. And we went from 8 teams to 11, which I think is huge. And that was just because there was so much support and, advocating around it. So just to keep on that trend, I think keep showcasing women's hockey, keep talking about women's hockey. Televising it obviously would be awesome as well. But I think so far we're on actually a really good path. I think it is becoming more popular today. And I think more people are talking about it and watching it more than they were a couple of years ago, especially when I was younger.
yeah, and hopefully platforms like this one to help promote players and get to hear
Definitely.
their stories will help grow the sport even more because obviously the internet's becoming a huge thing. So I think it's important to also have that kind of stuff as well.
No, definitely. I think this is awesome what you're doing. I respect it so much. And I think hearing stories from guys and girls is a great way to, get college hockey talk out there to everyone who maybe doesn't know too much about it.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of platforms for hockey that's either centered around men's hockey or women's hockey, but there's not a platform really that centers around both. And I feel like it would be cool to kind of have you two or both the men's and women's players kind of interact with each other. So that's partly why I wanted to start this platform.
Yeah, I think this is awesome. I think, this is a great idea. And I think, I'll shout you out here, definitely watched a lot of your episodes before.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, big supporter over here. I've seen my buddies come on it, and I think it's awesome just hearing different stories about, and, learning about different schools as well. It's super cool.
Well, do you have any advice you'd give to a younger player who's listening right now on what it takes to make it to the D1 college hockey level?
Yeah, I would say, be present and have fun. Do the right things even when no one's looking and do the little things when no one's looking. So I just think like the work that you put in definitely pays off. Never get discouraged. I think like the journey to becoming a college hockey player is different for everyone. It's never like a one-way street. Definitely bumps, turns here, but just sticking with it. And if you love something, if you love hockey, like stick with it. And I think hard work really pays off.
Now, do you have any shout outs you'd like to give to your family members, teammates, friends? I feel like we mentioned some people throughout the interview, but if there's someone you might have forgotten to mention, feel free to shout them out now. Or if there's anything you want to plug in and promote, feel free to do that now. That's your time.
No, I mean, maybe I'll just shout out my team, Harvard Women's Hockey. It's been great being a part of that team so far. I mean, a couple months ago, I didn't know any of them. Now it's like a sisterhood, a family I couldn't live without. So I'm super fortunate to be a part of that team. Give a shout out to my little sister. I'm here. She might be mad if I didn't have this opportunity. So True Thompson. There you go.
Well, thank you so much, Taze, for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate your time. It means so much to myself. I wish you nothing but the best for the rest of the season and for your time with Harvard. And I have a Merry Christmas. Have a great New Year. And hopefully, fingers crossed that things aren't too bad and I'll be able to go out to Harvard in 2 weeks like I planned on.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you so much for having me, Matthew. This was really fun.
Now, one thing we do with all of our guests is we have them introduce